I knew the situation was about to become a complete disaster the second my ranch worker called me sounding half terrified and half confused, asking why an HOA trailer was hauling away the giant black water tank from the backside of my ranch while HOA President Linda stood there recording videos on her phone, smiling like she had just won some kind of victory over me. At first, I honestly thought he misunderstood because nobody would be stupid enough to steal industrial ranch equipment in broad daylight, especially not a 40,000-gallon tank sitting behind warning fences and maintenance signs. But the second he sent me pictures, my stomach dropped because there it was, my massive holding tank strapped onto a flatbed trailer, slowly leaving my property while Linda followed behind in her SUV, looking proud of herself. I turned my truck around immediately and started heading back toward the ranch, already knowing this was going to end badly because that tank was not some decorative water container or abandoned storage unit like she probably imagined. That tank was part of the ranch waste management system connected to livestock runoff, temporary sewage storage, and emergency drainage operations during storm season. In simple words, that thing was filled with sewage and the people towing it away clearly had absolutely no idea. Before this gets even crazier, make sure you like this video and subscribe to Karen's Stories Daily because what happened after the HOA stole that tank turned into one of the most disgusting and unbelievable neighborhood disasters I have ever seen in my life. Now, to understand why Linda even touched the tank in the first place, you need some background because from the day I bought the ranch, she acted obsessed with controlling anything visible from nearby HOA property lines. She complained about tractors feed trailers, fencing livestock smells, water pipes, and honestly anything connected to actual ranch life because according to her, the neighborhood wanted a cleaner luxury appearance for residents driving near the outer roads. The tank especially bothered her because it sat on elevated ground visible from one section of the HOA walking trail, and even though it was fully legal, properly maintained, and located entirely on my private property, she constantly demanded I remove it, claiming it looked industrial and lowered the visual experience of the community. I ignored her complaints for months because arguing with someone like Linda usually only encourages them more, but eventually she escalated by sending repeated HOA notices threatening fines over what she called unauthorized utility structures unauthorized on a working ranch outside HOA property. Every complaint failed immediately once county officials confirmed the tank was legal agricultural infrastructure, but Linda never accepted losing, and honestly, that should have warned me she was planning something worse. A few weeks before the incident, I noticed HOA contractors measuring near the rear access road bordering my ranch, and when I confronted them, they claimed they were only checking drainage paths for future landscaping projects. But now looking back, I realize they were probably planning how to move the tank the entire time. By the time I reached the ranch entrance, the tank was already gone and deep tire tracks cut across the dirt where it once sat. That was the exact moment I stopped feeling angry and started feeling genuinely worried. Because if those idiots damaged the seals or tilted the tank incorrectly during transport, things could become extremely dangerous. Very fast, I immediately called County Environmental Services and explained the situation while trying to track where the tank had been taken, and honestly, even the dispatcher sounded shocked that someone would remove industrial waste equipment without permits, inspections, or trained handling crews. About an hour later, I finally got the answer from another ranch worker who spotted the flatbed parked near the HOA clubhouse, where Linda apparently planned to repaint the tank and convert it into what she called a community irrigation reservoir for neighborhood landscaping improvements. I almost could not believe what I was hearing. She stole a sewage holding tank and parked it beside the HOA clubhouse full of residents' cars, gardens, and walking areas because she thought it was free reusable water equipment. And somehow nobody involved had checked what was actually inside it. I drove there immediately, and honestly, the scene looked unreal. HOA volunteers stood around taking pictures while contractors prepared equipment to reposition the tank beside decorative flower beds and community picnic areas, and right in the middle of all this chaos stood Linda proudly explaining to residents how the HOA had reclaimed unused ranch infrastructure for the benefit of the community. Reclaimed. That word still makes me laugh now. The second I jumped out of my truck, I started yelling for everybody to back away from the tank immediately because it contained hazardous sewage waste, and the reaction was instant confusion followed by complete silence. Linda rolled her eyes and accused me of trying to scare people, because according to her, the tank had no warning labels proving it contained anything dangerous, except it absolutely did. Large warning labels on multiple sides, which had apparently been partially scraped off during transport by the chains and straps. They used to drag it onto the trailer. Then came the moment nobody there will ever forget. One of the contractors attempting to reposition the tank accidentally shifted it too hard with a loader, causing one of the pressure valves near the lower side to crack open slightly, and within seconds dark contaminated liquid started spraying directly across the pavement near the clubhouse parking area, while people screamed and ran in every direction trying to avoid getting hit. The smell alone was enough to cause instant panic. Residents dropped phones, chairs, drinks, bags, everything, and started running while contractors yelled at each other trying to stop the leak, and Linda just stood there frozen, staring at the sewage spilling across the HOA entrance, like her brain could not process what was happening. Honestly, the chaos became unbelievable within minutes because environmental officials, emergency crews, and county deputies all started arriving while contaminated runoff spread toward landscaped areas and nearby storm drains. And standing right in the middle of the disaster was Linda, still trying to insist none of this was technically the HOA's fault, even though multiple witnesses heard her bragging earlier about personally organizing the removal of my ranch tank without permission. But the real nightmare for the HOA had only just started, because investigators were about to uncover exactly how many laws had been broken the moment they touched that tank in the first place. Once, environmental crews confirmed the leaking tank contained livestock sewage waste. The entire HOA area went into emergency cleanup mode because contaminated runoff had already spread across parking areas, landscaping sections, and dangerously close to public storm drains. Residents were furious, and honestly, nobody cared anymore about Linda's excuses because people had seen the entire disaster happen with their own eyes, from the stolen tank to the sewage spraying across the clubhouse entrance county. Investigators immediately started asking who authorized removal of industrial ranch equipment without permits, environmental clearance, or owner permission, and every answer pointed directly back to Linda and several HOA board members who approved the operation, believing they were reclaiming abandoned property for community use. The problem for them was simple. Nothing about the tank was abandoned, and multiple warning notices existed before they dragged it away. From my ranch, cleanup costs became massive almost immediately because specialized environmental contractors had to sanitize affected areas, inspect drainage systems, and prevent contamination spreading further through nearby runoff channels. Then came the legal side of things. The HOA faced claims connected to theft, trespassing, environmental violations, property damage, and hazardous material mishandling, and suddenly, the same board members who supported Linda started blaming each other, trying to avoid responsibility. Linda herself completely disappeared from public HOA meetings after the incident because honestly, there was no explaining away a sewage disaster caused by stealing somebody else's ranch equipment. In the end, the HOA paid enormous cleanup costs. The board lost. Several members and county officials tightened restrictions around future HOA operations involving private property disputes. As for me, I replaced the damaged tank system and added larger warning barriers, mostly because I never again wanted to watch a crowd of screaming HOA residents running from a sewage leak caused entirely by their own arrogance. If you made it this far, let me know what you would have done in this situation and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. And do not forget to subscribe to Karen Stories Daily for more crazy HOA stories where entitlement always creates disasters nobody sees coming.